Welcome to the Coaching Podcast. I'm Simon Blair, coaching for success in sport and business. I'm your host, original, for one day only. I'm taking over. I'm back, baby. Emma Doyle, special episode. It's your birthday. Congratulations. I won't ask how old you are. That would be rude. So welcome. Thrilled to be here. Thank you for asking me to come back and host this special episode.
Yeah, well, this is the beauty of when you and I start a podcast like this. When it's your birthday, you get to do a special edition about your own coaching journeys. I couldn't think of anyone better than yourself to interview me, and also for me to always ask you coaching questions as well.
Yeah, really excited to chat to you about, well, let's face it, the big news that's happened for you over the last, when was it, fortnight ago? 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah,
launch of your book. See your
Mm-hmm.
graphics in the background there. What makes a great coach? Top 10 practices of the world's best coaches. Emma Doyle with Natalie Ashdown. Yeah, so the questions that I will be asking you today are going to be the classic coaching podcast questions that you and I created. It's going to be, flipped onto you about the process and the book itself.
I'm ready.
You're ready? Oh, you've got you've got the Vegemite. So, Emma Doyle, number one question. What makes a great coach? Your book. Talk to me, talk to the audience about your best moment or moments about writing the book.
When it comes to writing a book, it's such a daunting task. And my process was to sit down and lock myself in a room for 4 days and then not pick it up for quite some time. And then I did that a number of times. One thing that I'm really proud of is the fact that I did actually write 55,000 words. Now, the book isn't that long because we had to cut a lot of it, but I actually got out of my head ideas around coaching onto paper. So that's probably one of my favorite moments that I did in the early days. Now, the final manuscript looks nothing like the previous 32 drafts or whatever it was. That's one of my best moments because writing has been such a challenge for me. So being completely vulnerable and honest, speaking is a form of communicating that I love to do, as I know you do as well.
Yes.
Writing,
yes.
Of all the mediums to communicate a message one to many is my most challenging. So that's one thing that came to mind. And the other one that I want to share is, of course, the CEO of Open Door Coaching, Natalie Ashdown. She changed my world back in the early 2000s when I studied under her. And when she finally came to me and she said, "How's that book going?" And I'm like, "It's not. I have put that thing on the shelf and it's never going to be finished." And so she said, "Well, why don't we see what we can do with it together?" And then being able to talk to her about the practices around one of our common coaching words, as well as Natalie, being practice 6, empathy, was such an awesome moment, as well as all the data that we've collected from the coaching podcast, from you and I sitting next to each other in a conference. It created this data that even you were like, we have to do something with this. And, so I'm really glad that I was able to take that, on our behalf. So I feel very honored, and I'm very, very grateful to people like yourself and Natalie, and to myself as well, because there's been a lot of moments where I go, this is so shit. Who would read this? Back in the early days, I was like, I'm never gonna. What's that?
Imposter syndrome.
Oh, totally. I had total imposter syndrome. So to be able to put something out there that I'm really proud of is was one of my best moments about the book process.
I sat down on the couch late last night and read the first few chapters. I got to tell you, my overwhelming, there was a bit of emotion there, Emma, and it was certainly pride in what you managed to pull off, because for the reasons that you mentioned, it's a challenge. It's an absolute challenge, and many people attempt it, or don't even get to the point of attempting it. Want to, but never try. You tried, never thought you'd see it through. Reach out, get support, or the support comes to you when the need is there, and you got there in the end. And I was really captivated actually by those first few chapters and I was very mindful of, wow, who's your editor, Emma? This is just because it was punchy and the storytelling, you had me there. Oh, the story of you driving out of the petrol station, was it?
Yeah.
Trying to find the academy in
Saddlebrook, Florida.
Saddlebrook.
Mm-hmm.
You're driving over, was it a medium strip or something? I don't know. And now and all just
pulled out onto the left-hand side of the road, and this semi-trailer is coming towards me. I was like, oh. My God. Even my mum was like, I had no idea. But I'll never forget that moment. These are what, as you and I call, sliding doors moments in your life, where your life can go one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, don't jump the gun, Emma. We'll get to the sliding doors questions. Yeah, it was really hooked into the story, which was fantastic, and just surprising things I just never knew about your origin story. So there you go. And you've touched on some of the challenges there. So flesh that out a bit more. Tell us about some of those worst moments about writing what makes a great coach.
Year after year, literally, I would write down my goals. As you know, I'm a goal setter. I set those 5 balanced goals for the year, and I would have to carry the book goal over every year. And I always give myself a percentage, like how much have I actually taken a step forward? And this goal went from 20%, like some years 22%, and then like maybe 25%, but I still, and then I was like, do I keep the goal or do I get rid of it? So that was hard, because I'm somebody that is a goal setter, and yes, completion can sometimes be a challenge because I'm so creative and it's next idea.
Yep, I'm hearing you.
So that was really hard. The other thing that was, if I had my time over again, I think knowing what I know now, to be able to collaborate with somebody who is a writer, be able to empower somebody that I trust. So anyone listening out there, if you do want to write a book, the way that I did it is definitely not how I would ever do it again. So I think being able to chat to Natalie about some of the practices around belief or purpose or energy, curiosity, just having a dialogue with her where she would ask me the why, the what, the how, the when, the now questions around those practices to draw it out of me, and the stories, which I love, storytelling and sharing a message through story, is how I, and at the moment, I don't even want to ever think about writing another book because it's still too raw. But
I was going to suggest you and I should write one. We've done a podcast together. How about we write a book together? No?
So I'm still just not quite there yet. But if I did do it again, and if the journey was to go again, or anyone listening out there who's curious about wanting to start the process, everybody is different. So find that mode of communication with you to be able to share your message. And it might be writing, it might be speaking into your cell phone or your mobile phone. It might be through storytelling, whatever it is. Find what works for you, which is that individualization. And then when you get to the end of the process, hire somebody who knows what they're doing, and hire somebody who knows try and find somebody that can help you, rather than what I did, I think not very well, is I hired one person for this role, such as the cover design, one person for the typesetting, one person for the editing, one person. And then when we launched it again, very grateful to Natalie. She did so much research on keywords, key searches, key categories, and understanding the Amazon algorithms, let's be honest. So that on the weekend when we launched the book, again, I'm so grateful and so proud and humbled that we did hit #1 in coaching and leadership. Coaching and mentoring was the category that Natalie and I really wanted, that we were able to tick off, and to even see my book next to the inner game of tennis up on the tennis page, which was huge. I was so excited. I screenshotted that, but no one gives you, not like you get an email from Amazon or an award. You just have to monitor it yourself and screenshot.
No badge, no certificate.
No. We put it on ourselves, of course.
Yeah.
But the important point of my story is to find that person who knows what they're doing, and it is worth investing. Yes, you can do certain things on your own to a level. But definitely invest in your individualization and in somebody who can get the the final pieces of the puzzle together, because there's so much that goes into it. And there still is, now that it's launched, now the hard work begins with podcasting and talking. No, it's not that. That's it. That's the easy part. But knowing how to continue to launch it, it's like mini launch after mini launch. I think I'm just going to have to do 1 year of launch parties, not to mention when I'm coming home to Australia, we're definitely going to have a book launch party again, because why not?
Brilliant. And I hope to get an invite to that.
Yes, 100%.
That'd be awesome. So you've touched on sliding doors moments. Talk to us about that for yourself and how that relates to writing and releasing the book.
I have touched on it already. It is the moment where Natalie Ashdown, she basically put red pen all through the first 6 or 8 chapters that I had originally had 15 chapters, and they weren't even called practices back then. And she just like I was at school with that red pen, and I remember, so I literally put it down for 1 year. I didn't even pick it up for a year, and then it was January where I had another go at picking it up, and that was about a year and a half ago. So having then that conversation with her, and I needed her to write a reference letter, so I was like, oh, Natalie, can you write me a reference letter? And she's like, and how's the book going? And I was like, I knew accountability, like a great coach. I knew she was going to ask. And in that moment, that was a real sliding doors moment. And I'm, like I said, I'm very, very grateful that she had that wisdom to come on board and add value to not only my background as a high performance tennis coach, but just being a master certified coach with the ICF, and being, now that I'm even a part of doing open door training, it's, my life wouldn't have gone in this direction if it wasn't for the book. So for me to jump into training in the US, and I know I'm gonna flip it over to you, because I know that you've been doing a lot of trainings as well, just to let our audience hear what you've been up to. Now seems like a good time to throw it in. I ran a training session this morning, leader as coach, here in the US, using the open door material because of that moment with Natalie. And then the second moment was when I realized that I'd written the book for the wrong audience. So I had a moment where I was like, who's my primary audience? Tennis coaches. And yes, I'm a tennis coach. Yes, I love my tennis coaches. And out of the 520 coaches who I interviewed, 328 of them were tennis coaches. And I have to say 51% female, 49% male. Sorry, just had to throw that into the research. And that,
which I noticed at the up front in the book as well. You mentioned that. I think that was, for me, that really was a strong point to mention early, and to bring across.
Especially because in the industry of tennis that I have grown up in, 80% of coaches, that number is shifting, thank goodness. But, you know, I grew up, it was 80% male dominated. So I really wanted equal with the genders, to be able to have the different perspectives. So the sliding doors moment was when I realized that I have so much more to give to the coaching world beyond tennis, beyond sport, into corporate. And it wasn't until, and I was in a flood of tears, because that's when Natalie goes, you know, we're going to have to rewrite it. And I was like, no. I was like, oh my goodness. And she was 100% right. So they're two of the biggest sliding doors moments that happened. And, you know, when you're so close to finishing something, you just want it done. And then you realize that you've got to go back to the drawing board and go through the structure a little better, and make sure that you hit the right audience. So now hopefully a business coach, a sports coach, and a corporate coach, life coach, even a parent could pick up the book, and they could, even though they're reading a tennis story, they can relate back to it. And I love now even the way it's structured, the way it's laid out with the little pop-out boxes, you know, to be able to summarize certain parts of the book. So I'm really proud of that. So now over to you, Simon Blair. I know you've been doing a lot of training as well, and I know even you've handballed the podcast over to me because you are so busy, which is super awesome. And off air, you were telling me about some of your training methodologies, and one in particular that you were using. I heard FBI negotiation techniques. Please, with our audience, can you share with us some of your insights around your trainings? For
those that don't know, I train sales and customer service specifically for call centers and call center staff, frontline staff, and their team leaders. That's the industry I've played in. That's my point of difference. That's my expertise. And I've been doing this for 30 years now. And so you get on a bit of a treadmill, you do the same old things that you know works and have proven methodologies, etc. Yeah, it lasts 12 months, 12 to 18 months. Just stepped it up a notch in particular around, I think, the heart and soul of any, well, let's face it, coaching conversation, let alone a customer service conversation that you might have with customers, is that discovery process. Just through my own research and study, came across some FBI techniques that they use. And I've been able to adapt that to, because it just resonated with me straight away. And there was a familiarity with things I was already teaching, but just a bit more of a rigorous sort of framework, because let's face it, was the FBI. Yeah. So when the FBI negotiate with hostages, of course, it's over the telephone. And so it's techniques that are specifically designed to work in that medium particularly well, and had tremendous opportunities to do that at volume. And it's really basically transformed, I suppose, the impact of what I'm doing, and also just, I think, the fun and the enjoyment. So Emma, there's 3 techniques. The first technique is open conversation, how to start conversations. As you know, many people are pretty average to poor at just conversing, socially, professionally, the skill of conversation. What most people default to is questions that elicit closed responses. So it's actually the what, where, when, how, why, who type of standard starting point. It's too easy for people to give a closed one-word response or minimal information. So the first technique is you chuck all that out and you start with a broad, Emma, talk to me. Tell me about your plans for this weekend.
This weekend, I'm doing another little mini book launch at my friend's house.
At your friend's house?
Yeah, Brooke. She's a wonderful human, and she always does beautiful catering, and like, she's an amazing cook, and I love her little soirees. They feel super intimate, yet like, yeah, just, she's got some awesome people that she's connected with.
So it sounds like you're going to enjoy the food. And there's probably some opportunities there for you to meet some new, really interesting people.
Correct.
Yeah?
Yep, definitely.
Brilliant. So very quickly, I've just used 3 techniques there, and I've got to the heart of the matter as to what really is valuable for you or important to you or resonating with you in terms of that. You started with something very practical. Interesting that your first response, where you finished, when you went blah, 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 in response to my open conversational question, the last thing you finish with is the thing that matters most to you. What was the last thing?
What was it?
In the first iteration, when I said, talk to me about your weekend, what did you end with?
Oh, at my
Food.
friend's place.
Friend's place, yes. So friend's place, I mirrored that. I mirrored your language. So mirror, true reflection of what you've said to me in minimal words. So friend, with curiosity. So curiosity, as you know, it's in your book. It's a powerful, powerful thing to be effective in coaching. It's a powerful thing in terms of what drives conversation. Because when you're curious, that sounds a certain way, comes out in subtle ways in your inflection, your energy, etc. People will share with you if they feel you're genuinely interested in what they've got to say. And of course, most people aren't, because they're not curious enough, which is why we don't actually give too much of ourselves when people ask us questions. But when you've got someone who's genuinely curious and interested, we're willing to share. So curiosity is the overarching flavor, I suppose, of how to use the 3 techniques. First technique is tell me, talk to me, blah, 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 blah. Zero in on the last thing, because that's the most important thing for you for some reason. You focused on best friend. That makes sense, yeah? Mirror best friend. That triggered you to give more around that, because it's important to you. Brooke gave her a name, gave more information about the event. You finished with a focus on food in that event, which is interesting. Might be something
I thought
in
it was
that.
Connection and friendship, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, it was. You started with food. So you led with food. Finished, sorry, you're right. Finished with friendships and connections. That makes sense why you would finish that. Again, you finish with the thing that's most important. I think I've pinned down the thing that matters most to you about this, and the nugget, I suppose, within this subject that you're talking about. And so when I feel I've got that I use my language, my interpretation of what you've shared with me. Number 1, to show empathy, to validate what you've said. You do that with sounds like or seems like. So it sounds like, or it seems like that this is what's going on for you and what's the value you're going to get from that, however I express that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm checking in. And if I get that wrong, you get the chance to clarify. And if I get it right, you're going to do exactly like you did. That's it. Absolutely. You get me. You understand me. Now we're in a place to either continue the conversation in a different area, or to, if this is a coaching conversation or a customer service context that I'm teaching in my training, you'd move to the solution. Okay, so based on that, what I'm going to do next is, and that person feels like you get it, you get them. And so they're brought into the process. It's very efficient. Where were you on the night of the 16th? No one wants to feel like they're being interrogated, which sometimes the what, where, when, how, why can come off. So open conversation, mirror, label, summarize your understanding of what they've shared with you. I've now adapted that to, and this is where it's particularly relevant for our audience, those same techniques within my own coaching conversations. So I use the techniques I'm teaching in when I'm facilitating, and I'm finding that it fits very, very beautifully. And I had this thought last night when I was reading your book. All the key themes of what makes a great coach is wrapped up in those three techniques and that approach. You think of the big hitters that came out of your research, empathy, listening, curiosity, genuineness, passion, because you're interested, you're invested in the conversation, people respond to that, and so it's working very, very, very well, the value for participants. And I want to share with you and the audience is one anecdote from an individual only 3 weeks ago that I trained, when I did exactly what I did with you, and I set them homework prior to the next session. I said, I want you to take that technique. I want to go home tonight, instead of saying, how was your day, which is the typical way we ask people in our lives at the end of the day, how we start conversations, typical responses, short, one-word answers. Yeah, good, great. That's not good conditions for a conversation. So I said, use these techniques and just see what happens. One participant in the training used this with her 11-year-old son. Kids are great to try this stuff out on when you're practicing. She comes back to the next session and says to me that her relationship with her son is now significantly better as a result of these techniques. And I'm going, oh. And then she explained, because now the son, without her even having to ask, at the end, after school, he approaches her and says, Mom, I want to tell you about my day. I suppose a mode of having open conversations with that. Talk to me, share with me. I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Giving the person the soapbox, which of course for kids, they just want to, we all do. We just want to be heard. Yeah. We want to be heard. We want to be understood. So it really taps into that deep-seated psychology. But to hear that from a participant,
awesome.
Her relationship with her son has improved as a result of that. Is just like everything. So
thank you for sharing. Practice 8 in the book, curiosity. And notice they're called practices. We didn't call them chapters because it's not best practice. It's just next practice. Both Natalie and I believe that your coaching is a continuous evolution. Just in what you shared there, Simon, I know that I'm going to be adding that. And I do often say, after a what question, can you tell me more?
Yes.
Because that is, can you go deeper, or can you keep going, or what else can you share? So I love that.
Absolutely. And I did that with you, Emma, with the sliding doors question, because you already touched on that. So we'd already framed that subject area. So in a maximum of 3 words, as now that you are a published author, which is just amazing even for me to be able to say that, what do you think makes a great author?
And the other reason why I love this question so much, Simon, is it does make you drill down into what is most important to you. And when I think about this whole book process, what's most important to me, the 3 words that come up is individualization, which refers back to what I spoke about earlier. Find your own unique way of sharing your message one-to-many. Know what your strength is in what medium.
Yep.
Number 2 is might be a little bit of a surprising one, but my second word I chose was structure. So what we ended up doing as well is we got some feedback on the manuscript. We invested in somebody to give us some feedback, who then helped us even just structure some of the concepts with the why, the how, the what, and the now. So each chapter to follow that format, which I highly recommend. The why, the story, then, well, how is this concept important? Then what can we do about it? And then the now is the reflection questions at the end of every single practice. There's a bunch of reflection questions for you as a coach and for when you're coaching others.
Yes.
And then the third word, I'm gonna stick with my three coaching words. So energy. The energy of writing a book ebbs and flows. And some days I was able to really even work on it every single morning, especially in the mornings. That's what worked best for me, for about 1 to 2 hours, when we were in the phase of being so close and I just needed to reread it, or I just needed to rehash something out. So the energy of that, you have to get yourself up for it. You have to know when your energy is in the zone for you to limit your distractions, and just, tell your loved ones, hey, this weekend, let them know in advance, I'm going to spend Sunday working on the book from this time to this time. It really helped my relationship when I gave advance warning, rather than just throwing myself into into my little cave and working on the book. So
there's some great relationship advice right there, Emma.
Yes, individualization, structure, and energy. The energy one, of course, crosses over into what I think is a great coach. So they will make
love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So just on when you mentioned the structure, immediately my brain went to, in reading the book yesterday, it's very fresh for me, I really noticed the structure quite early on, and how that was working for me in terms of being able to digest the information and quite quickly progress through the book, which I think it helped with the almost like a pacing. Even down to things like good use of white space, the layout and the presentation of it. And I think following that structure consistently, I think it does something to people's brains in terms of how that creates a comfort. Rather than chaos, I suppose, as a reader. So I really noticed
that was the first draft. It was complete chaos. But I'm glad I got it all out on paper. I got all my concepts out, but none of them really matched or rhythm. It was about pulling stories from that first draft, and that doesn't belong in energy. It belongs in empathy or whatever it might be. So I'm really I'm really grateful for all the people that have helped us along the journey. And if I ever did it again, I hope somebody listens to this podcast and one day writes a book and says, just Emma, understand the why, the how, the what, and the now helps you when you're writing it. Oh, this is the why section, or that's, it doesn't even have to necessarily go in order. Sometimes you can change the order, but have you covered off on those 4 things?
Yes. Oh, well, if I ever write my customer service for call centers book, then you've already got me thinking about the method, and maybe I'll just contact Natalie, and just get but at the start, not halfway through. Correct.
Or someone like Natalie. There's so many amazing writers out there that were just born to write. People that love writing copy, So I think that's important.
In terms of we love questions, don't we? Questions are the key to unlocking insights. What questions from the book have had the biggest impact on your journey?
I really like this one from Rick Charlesworth. For those of you who don't know, former Australian national field hockey coach, and on the coaching podcast. His question that's really impacted me, and I often ask myself, is what might seem impossible and unlikely, but if we did it, it would make a big difference. So sometimes even the concept of writing a book, it's pretty much an impossible and an unlikely concept. But if I did it, what sort of difference? And I'm already starting to see a huge difference in the corporate world. It's like, where's my TEDx? Where's my book here in the States? So it's the things around completion that has been really important. Oliver Luck on the podcast, who is, many of you will know Oliver Luck, but the Australians, he's an American business executive and former NFL quarterback. One of his questions is, can a successful business person or coach become a successful sports coach, and vice versa? And if talk about my life, that is my life. That is what land I'm playing in. to be able to go from sports into corporate. And
for me, the opposite,
Yeah.
Doing amateur coaching, but, certainly kids sport and everything. And
That's right. So it's not just can you be successful. I think I always take coaches' questions on the podcast even and say, well, how does that question relate to me? Which I think is really important with all the reflection questions in the back of the book. Can they be successful? That's not the question. The question around that for me is how. How can I transfer the skills? So just even our podcast alone, which is Coach for Success in Sport and Business, when we look at the data from over 520 humans, where we asked this question, 1 to a maximum of 3 words, business coaches can 100% benefit from sports coaches, and sports coaches can 100% benefit from the responses of business coaching. And it wasn't until I stepped off the tennis court and took a year away from the game that I realized practices like listening, curiosity, and empathy, just how important they were. And for business coaches, all the grounding that I had around embedding decision-making, having a purpose to every drill that I did, and bringing the passion and the energy and the enthusiasm to every single session. If more business coaches had that energy every time they coached, they'll bring more people along with them. It's not you solving the problems for them, but it's being able to create that environment and that energy around momentum of motivation and tapping into that motivation. So I love the fact that the book brings all that together, and I'm super pumped about it. So Simon, thank you for everything that you've taught me over the years, and let's continue to do birthday episodes for each other and celebrate, because I do believe in birthday week. I do believe in birthday week.
Yeah, okay, yes.
And I do believe, as you know, the Scottish Castle one year. This year, going to spend some time in Del Mar, California to play some golf and no doubt visit a winery and a day spa for throw a bit of R&R in there. But that's important for me to always explore new parts of the world and just take time to do the things that I love to do and not wait for a significant number, even though there's one coming up. But, well, not this year, but the important message is to take time out for you and celebrate. And so being able to celebrate what makes a great coach and coming home soon to celebrate another book launch back in Melbourne. We'll let everyone know the date soon. If you're Melburnians, please come and join us. But Simon, thanks again. I'm so grateful.
Thanks, Em.
And are you going to sing happy birthday to me to round off the episode?
Happy birthday to you.
Okay, thanks. That's good.
Thank you, Emma. And just want to say a heartfelt congratulations. So proud of you. Incredible effort, which you've talked about, to produce this thing. I've been there from the start when it was an idea and saw that shifting of the goal, and I wonder if it's ever going to happen. But I didn't lose faith, and neither did you. Look what's happened. You've done it. Super, super proud. Yeah, it was an amazing thing for me to be able to sit down last night and read it and hear your story. Well done. Can't be prouder of you. Can't wait to see you again soon. And thank you for having me on as the host of this episode. It's a bit of a throwback.
I love it. I love it.
So
of course,
excited.
Practice 2 in the book is belief. So thank you for believing in me and everyone who supported the book so much. I appreciate you all. And of course, thank you for listening. Simon Blair is a business owner of 5 Degrees. He's a sales and customer service assessor, trainer and coach. And you can find him at 5degrees.com.au, as in FIVE. And I'm a global speaker and performance coach helping you unleash your potential. You can find me at emmadoyle.com.au. Thank you for listening to the Coaching Podcast.